Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast. And we are back with On Friendship. We are talking about Dash of Love. Going to be super fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Alysa is here.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's February is better than January.
Yeah, oh, good. Yeah, so we had our little end of the year
Mhm.
episode that we did. That was a lot of fun. But we haven't done an episode on friendship for a bit. So I'm excited to have
Yes.
you back.
Yeah, it's been a while since I moved and started a new job and
Yeah.
everything. So
Yeah, you had a
it's
busy 2023.
yeah, the end of 2023, especially the
It was,
last 4 months.
yes. It was busy,
I do
but
not recommend 0 stars.
yeah. But hopefully your 2024 is off to a better start.
Well,
Maybe not. Okay. Well, send your
Janu-
thoughts and prayers to Lisa Lucas.
yes, thank you. I appreciate
We need
it.
it. But was it fun diving back into the world of Hallmark?
It
Watching this
was.
Hallmark movie? It's been a while.
I haven't watched a Hallmark movie in some time, and I thought this movie was cute, and so I thought it was a good return movie for
Yeah.
me.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was debating. I'm like, what would be a fun kind of Valentine's-y, even though this will
Yeah.
air after Valentine's Day. What would be a good one for February? And
Yeah.
we hadn't actually covered this movie that much on the channel or on the podcast, and so I thought, well, let's do it. Let's talk about it. And so
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a fun one. This is
Yeah.
one of the first movies that I really geeked out of on the pod because it actually came out right just before we started the podcast.
Oh.
Yeah, it came out in February of 2017. We started the podcast in August of 2017.
Wow.
But Jen Lilly, the star, had another movie in 2017 that we covered for that very first episode that we did
Oh.
for spring. I mean, for summer nights. She had a movie, and so I watched this at the same time that I watched that because I
Yeah.
really enjoyed her and I just really liked this movie when I saw it,
Hmm.
and so it does have its issues, but I still think it's a pretty strong Hallmark offering.
Well, and she is the lead of the movie,
Yes, yeah,
so she's adorable.
yeah, she's really cute in this, and she has her share of misses. So it's nice to go watch this and be like, oh, she's so cute. What are you gonna do? We all have our share of misses, so it
Yeah,
happens.
that's true.
Um, but a dash of love. It was in 2017. It stars Krista Will. I mean, it's directed by Krista Will Wolf, and I do think this is her strongest movie. She's done a ton
Mm.
for
Hmm.
Hallmark. I think this is the best one she's ever done. Writers Sandra Berg, Judith Berg, and Sib Ventress, and stars Jen Lilly and Brendan Penny and Perry Gilpin. And we have had, except for Brendan Penny, which he doesn't do interviews at all, everybody else involved with this podcast. Wow, I can't talk today. Everybody else involved with this movie we've had on the podcast. We've had the Bergs on,
Cool.
we've had Christopher Wolf on several times, we've had Jen Lilly on multiple times, and she was hilarious, especially that first interview. If y'all haven't listened to our first interview that we did with Jen Lilly, she told a lot of stories about the makings of this movie because this was her first movie for Hallmark that she
Oh,
had done.
wow.
Yeah. And she had some really funny stories, and she's just a good storyteller. She's a good
Yeah.
interview. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's
that's great.
it's so interesting because I respect anybody who comes on and does an interview, is willing to talk to us, especially for no compensation. No, I respect
Yeah.
anybody. But there are people who are just natural storytellers. You just
Yeah.
you give them a question and they just go, and they have this great
Yeah.
story and they have this great thing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Makes
she's
it easy for you.
yeah, it does. It makes the people make my job easy, and other people I have to kind of work a little bit harder to bounce
Yeah.
questions off of, and that's totally fine. But anyway, she's one that is a storyteller. She's
Nice.
great with that, and it's very funny. So I highly recommend people check out that interview. And like I said, we've talked to director Chris Wolf. We did an interview with the Berg sisters, and that was really fun as well. And so yeah, it's just been it's a movie that has been pretty influential on Hallmark's podcast. So it was fun to
Yes.
revisit it. It was fun to revisit it. But the plot is when an aspiring chef lands a dream job at her idol's restaurant, she befriends the handsome executive chef. After they are both wrongly fired from there, the duo decides to open their own eatery to prove their food is better.
Mm.
So overall, what did you think of the movie?
I liked the scandal or the betrayal
Yeah.
that happens in the movie. I
Mm-hmm.
liked that the friends were at the forefront throughout the movie, through everything.
Yeah.
And I thought their relationship was believable. So
Mm-hmm.
overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's really cute. I like the leads. I like the food is kind of bonkers. Like I don't know if I would actually want to eat most of this food, but like it's entertaining. Like would I
Yeah.
want to eat peanut butter beef bourguignon? That sounds a little gross to me.
But it also has root beer in it.
Yeah, root beer, and I should put
Gross.
ice cream cones on chicken. That is just a little nutty, but
Yeah.
but that's part of the fun of this movie. I think the real weakness of the film, and I did say this at the time, was that this conflict between the father son is insane. There is no world where a somebody would stop talking to their only son because he decides to become a cook rather than a baker. Like it's insane. Ridiculous.
Well, you needed something.
Yeah. I mean, not really. The conflict of getting fired is enough. You don't really need
Yeah.
him have this like this family feud. I mean, it would have been better if the feud was just, oh, I don't want to take over your particular establishment,
Yeah.
your bakery, but to make it seem like you went to culinary school and you betrayed us.
Well, also
How dare
like
you go to Liquid and
there
Blue or whatever.
it yeah, like that's not something to be proud of. It's like they're getting older too, so it would have made more sense that they would retire and want him to take it
Yeah.
over.
There's
So that
there's
could have been a
no
better conflict.
yeah, I mean, there's still it's not he didn't even pick something out of the same field. It's still in the same general field. Like it makes no sense. It's ridiculous. You picked
I can't
you
believe you're not a doctor, but instead you're a nurse. Oh,
yeah.
God.
Instead, you went and became a cook instead of you became a chef instead of a baker. How dare you? So ridiculous. But if I'm able to kind of excise that, which I really think is stupid, pretty much everything else in the movie works for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you have to do that.
Well, where was this supposed to be located? Was this supposed to be New York City?
Oh, I
Chicago? Well, it seemed like it was supposed to be in a big city, and
oh
I was
yeah.
like, suspension of disbelief that a waitress and an unemployed waitress or cook, excuse me, live in some fancy place was a little much for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I did not write down the setting. I where it
I
was,
don't remember them
but
ever
it is a
really
city. Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was
Also,
like,
this bakery is not going to be doing very well if they're just like giving out free baked goods to everybody.
they were like,
It's on
until
the
you get a
house.
job, it's on the house. Like, then it's like, what if I never get a job? Thanks.
Yeah. But
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
It starts out, she's leaving the diner and she's interested in owning her own place, but she doesn't have the money right now. And he says, "You're a great chef." She says, "I'm a cook, not a chef."
Well,
I had forgotten in watching the movie that there's like really strong product placement in this movie.
the Red-A-Whip?
Yeah, the Red-A-Whip.
I was like, okay.
I mean, she literally like takes it out and she like holds it right in front of the camera, like full view.
It's like I'm watching Bones right now, and
Yeah.
they do this scene where they're in a new car and talking about all of the like
Oh,
cool
yeah.
stuff about the car, and I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible advertisement.
Even the television is, I mean, I guess this is a television movie, but television is even worse than movies. I
Yeah.
remember in an episode of The Middle,
Yeah.
the whole movie and the whole episode is all about Frankie buying a new car. And they go into details. Oh, look at the aspects. I forget it was like a Toyota or something like that.
Yeah.
But things like this just sort of blow my mind because, I mean, something I guess where they really do talk about the positive and negative aspects of this car and how great it is and stuff. Like, I guess I can see like, oh, I'm interested in buying a car. Maybe I'll check this one out. I guess I can kind of see it, but when it's literally just like, here it is, I don't understand how that's effective. Like, because people know, do that many people not know the Red-A-Whip exists? Like, don't people know basically that it exists? And
Yeah.
are that many people like watching it and being like,
I need to get some of that.
I need to add that to my list, you know? But it must work because people keep doing it, so it must work.
I mean, it's like, unless you plan to make something with that particular ingredient, I mean, unless you're doing pup cups for your dog or something, like, I don't understand why you have that all the time. But I mean, maybe I'm missing out on something that
it's long been a standard practice in Hallmark movies. You know, you'd see like Lacey Chabert holding up the Folgers thing or things like that. They went through different eras. Last year, it was a lot of Campbell's soup. You see them like pull out the thing and be like, "Look what I just made in the Campbell's soup." And I just, it must be effective because people keep doing it. I'm like, they keep paying for it. So I don't know, it just like boggles my mind.
I feel what's stronger is what you grew up with. Like, what sort of laundry detergent do you use?
Yeah.
I probably use what my parents used, right? Like, that feels stronger
definitely.
Than just like, here's some Tide.
Well, and sometimes you're like, did they pay for this? Because it's like actually bad product. Like, I hope that the Peloton people didn't pay for and just like that. Because
when he died.
Yeah, like, spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry.
Getting it, but just like that. You just think, did they pay for that name drop? Because it could have just been like he was on any bike, but he was on particularly Peloton. Like, what?
And it's like, maybe that's not a good idea.
No, terrible. But, I mean, Sex and the City was a show that they must have made so much money, especially towards the end, the last couple of years, on like product placement and, you know, name drops in New York City and things like that. I mean, almost every episode had something, whether it's Magnolia Bakery or, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was
things
thinking
like that.
When I went to New York City, I was like, I have to go to Magnolia Bakery.
But anyway, we find out at the beginning that she, not only is she a self-taught cook, she says, not a chef, I'm a self-taught cook. So she is like very aware of her. She has her insecurities. She's very aware of her weaknesses. As she sees it, she knows. And I think that immediately makes her very endearing. We like her as a human. And
Yes.
and because
Like she
Jen
works
is,
in a diner, Gus's
Yeah.
diner.
that's right. And there's Holly Hansen, who's like the Martha Stewart, Ina Garten of this world, kind of. Like she has
Yeah.
like a brand. She has cookbooks. She has, you know, but the thing is she's been like slacking off and not been, she's been settling for sort of the old recipes.
Yep.
And and we know that because so Jen's character goes into the restaurant because her friend, her roommate, is now working there
Mm-hmm.
as a server. She goes in and she gets the free cassoulet, and I would be pretty pumped if I got free cassoulet because that's like a pretty but so I didn't have a job. But then she's like, ugh, this is gross. And it's bland. And
It's
this is just after,
disappointing.
this is just after Paul, played by Brendan Penny, has just told Holly that her cassoulet is bland.
Yeah. So he knows, and he's the chef, and
Yes.
and she's like, "No, you cook my recipes as is.
Yeah.
There's no need for you to talk back to me."
Which
And
is
so-
true. I mean, in the world of restaurants, like you have to do the dish as created by the executive chef. That's the whole point. You don't.
I think there's a problem there, though, when you are clearly in a rut and you're being told probably by multiple sources
Yeah.
that something is bland. It might be time to have an open mind and fix
Oh,
it
for
up
sure.
or something.
I mean, and you would hear it most from your customers who would not be happy
Yes.
with the food. And I guess we get that
Or
in
who stop showing up.
who stop going to that restaurant because they're just like, oh, this is going to be the same old roast beef that we gotten since the 1980s. This is really lame. But it is true that the chefs have to cook what the executive chef orders them to cook. They can't because you want the dishes to be consistent. If I go to a restaurant and I order the steak, the steak and potatoes, I want it to be the same every single time that I go there, and it not be some crazy variation because the line cook decided not to do it the way they do it.
Well, and I just think that from my obviously just storied experience with chefing by watching Top Chef,
right?
You would think that
Yeah.
you would think that you would want to continuously improve and come up with new recipes. Like you have to continuously produce. And she's not.
No,
and
she's not. Nope. She's gotten to a rut. She's blocked. She can't figure it out. And so she's just coasting on the old days, on the old recipes and everything, her old fame, all of that. So but then let's see. So then what's Jen Lily's character's name? What's her name? Nikki. So then Nikki.
I actually remembered a person's name.
So then Nikki tells she hates the cassoulet. She tells Paul that she hates it. And they have this kind of back and forth. They don't get along at first. But he kind of appreciates her honesty. And then we have the investor. And this guy is played by Ben Wilkinson, who is like the bad guy in like 90% of Hallmark movies. It's hilarious. He's murdered. He is in the murder mysteries. He's oftentimes the one murdered. But he's usually a bad man of business in one time or another. He's done so many of these movies. And so it's funny to see him here. He's like ends up pretty redeemed for one of his characters. He's like the investor.
Yeah,
which is funny to me.
Well, he's not going to invest with all those tired recipes.
Yeah, he says, you're doing a bad job running this restaurant. I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
Well, it seemed like she wasn't even submitting paperwork that she needed for him to understand what was going on with the business. And it's like, how do you not have someone doing the books? Like, you have a brand.
Yeah, especially if she has a brand beyond just this one little restaurant. It sounds like she has
She needs a
cooking
staff.
gear and for sure. So then Nikki offers to work for Holly. Says, I'll do everything for you. I'll help you. I'm good at balancing things. I'm good at everything. And so offers to be your assistant. And the first thing that Holly does is says, will you pick up my dry cleaning?
Terrible.
Which is,
That
I
is
think
not-
that's like the ultimate sign of a horrible person. If they make you get their dry cleaning.
Yeah, like you can't get it yourself. Like, come on.
Right. Right. That's just like code in movie speak for, this person's a horrible person.
That's why I like the end of Working Girl when Melanie Griffin's character is like, you don't have to get me coffee unless you're getting yourself some.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the way she sets it up to be like, we are in a partnership and you don't have to be, I'm not a terrible person.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, that Miranda Priestley in Devil Wears Prada is like extra terrible because she makes her do more than just getting the dry cleaning. Like she has to like get the Harry Potter book and things like that. Like she's out of control.
People need to calm down.
Yeah.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
She's got all these boxes of receipts and she's digging through it. And then Holly forgets to check that her employee is there and she locks her in. And then so then Nikki decides to make herself some food because she's hungry.
Yeah.
Locked in. And then Holly gets all upset. Like, how could you use my food and use my things? And she'd be like, well, you locked me in here.
Yeah, seriously. I was like, what are you so upset about? But maybe she was upset because she had to come all the way down because the motion detector went off. But as we learn, she has surveillance. So why wasn't she able to see from home what was going on? Or
what's happening here?
Yeah. Or that she is just terrible enough of a person to be like, let me go all the way down there and tell her what's what.
Mm-hmm. But basically, they had to come up with sort of finagled reason why she would be cooking and why Holly would be spying on her. And it works. Yeah. It works. I mean, do you think that this root beer stew do you think that sounds good?
Peanut butter root beer, don't forget.
Peanut butter root beer stew.
No, but it's one of those things that might be so weird that it does work. I don't know. But I mean, if someone else made it and it was in a high-end restaurant, I might taste it, but I'm not like choosing it. You know what I mean? Like yeah, give me that.
Most of these kind of high-end restaurants, I mean, I haven't been to that many. But the few that I have been to, they've been disappointing because a lot of times they don't give you that much food. And like the stuff that's most delicious, like the sauces, they give you like these tiny little bits. And I'm like, I want like a whole cup of that. Like,
yeah, you're like, that's the good stuff.
Yeah, they give like also, in a dropper or something.
And I just think it's hilarious that she was locked in the restaurant. And so she decided to make some fancy peanut butter root beer stew. Yeah. Like they'd have peanut butter and root beer in that restaurant.
Right.
And additionally, why don't you just make something easy like pasta where you like probably use the least ingredients and something easy? And it's like, nope, I'm going to make the fanciest thing that's ridiculous that I can think of.
That's a good point. That's true. Or like a grilled cheese. I think that's something like that you're more likely to make. Yeah, you're right. That's very
like,
true.
Come on.
So then she makes this deal with Holly. She says that that she wants to come in early and use her kitchen in return for all the work she's doing. And Holly says, okay, I don't want the rest of my chefs to know what a softie I am.
Yeah.
And she tries the stew and she says, the stew is okay for a novice. But
So rude.
yeah.
Why do people have to be such jerks? Like we could be like, it's not bad. Here's some ways that, I've never had something like this before. I mean, there's so many different ways you could go, but like just being rude.
And here's a question, Alysa. Do you know the difference between a turnip and a parsnip?
I know the difference between what they look like. Parsnip looks more like a carrot.
Yeah. That the only because that is a question put to the Brendan Penny character, to Paul.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know a difference between and Nikki's like, they taste the same, and I'm like, yeah, that's accurate. They do taste the same.
Yeah.
But that's like their version of sort of, ooh, are you sophisticated or not? Like, how well do you know? Do you know
Are
the
you
difference between a
chef worthy?
turnip? Yeah. And so he comes in early and he makes heart-shaped ravioli because this is a Valentine's movie. This came out in Countdown to Valentine's.
Yep.
And they do work in Valentine's quite a bit actually into this. It's Cupid Cafe. There's other things. And he has pine nuts with artichoke hearts and mushrooms in the ravioli.
Where's the cheese?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, where's the ricotta? You need like some filling. This would be very expensive too, because mushrooms are expensive, artichoke hearts and pine nuts all expensive.
Here's the thing. I'm not eating pasta unless there's cheese. Like, let's be real.
Well, and part of the reason why Italian restaurants do so well and often do so well, and because and they're so profitable, is because there's nothing cheaper than pasta. Pasta is super cheap, and so if you can make it, and I mean, there's restaurants that sell cacio de pepe for $30, and it's literally just pasta and butter and cheese. That's it.
Yum.
And pepper.
Okay, now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Luckily, I watched this movie after I ate dinner because I was like,
not including labor, it probably costs what, $3 give them both to make that, and they can sell it for $30, and it's delicious. All more power to them, but I'm just saying that's why that's why Italian restaurants make bank, is because the ingredients can be really cheap. And so there was no way you'd have a recipe that has pine nuts, artichoke hearts, and mushrooms. That's expensive.
Yeah, I don't know.
It would be a very
I like artichoke
dish.
hearts. Yum.
Yeah, I like all those things, but it would be an expensive dish. Then she says, no, we do rack of lamb, lobster, filet mignon. That's what we serve on Valentine's Day. And
this was a little too on the nose, though, with like all these little pasta hearts. Like, I'd understand. My cousin had a wedding where there was a starter that was one giant ravioli, and it was delicious. And I could see it was circle, but I could see the same thing, like an appetizer, a giant heart ravioli as part of Valentine's Day. But I was like, buddy, you're too on the nose. You might need to come up with something
too cheesy.
Yeah.
With no cheese. But
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, sticking to the old steakhouse kind of aesthetic of rack of lamb, lobster, filet mignon, that's fine, but also not wanting to have anything kind of cute and bubbly for the holiday, anything special, is also kind of silly. Like, you wouldn't at least want to have like maybe a heart-shaped macaroon or something like that, because especially if you're a steakhouse in Valentine's Day, people are going to want to like go there for a romantic date, or even to propose or something like that. Like, you want something that's a little corny.
Yeah, something special.
Yeah.
Could be like a special menu, special items.
Yeah.
Look at us. We can tell people how to run their businesses.
Right.
This is what you need.
Yes. And this is Valentine's Day is all about hearts and flowers. And it says those are just decorations, not cuisine.
This seems
And we also find out
rude.
that Paul evidently cooks for the staff on Sundays.
Mhm.
And so she eats his food and says nothing about it tells me you made it.
Yeah, that's the
So.
thing about him. He seems sort of bland, just like the recipe that Holly Hansen had.
Which for somebody who cooking literally estranged him from his entire family, you think he would
He
be a
better
little
be
bolder.
good.
Yeah,
He
you
better
think
be
he'd
good.
I think he'd be a little bolder. He studied at Le Cordon Bleu, and but she's making ice cream cone chicken
And
and
waffles. Those are the waffles.
yes, and she works at a soup kitchen.
Mhm.
And so she makes at the soup kitchen red lentil soup with bacon and turnips and ham and chicken and cheese sandwiches. I don't think either of those would be, maybe the sandwiches, but I don't think they'd be that big of hits at the soup kitchen. I think at the soup kitchen, you want to keep it pretty simple. I don't think red lentil soup with bacon and turnips would be a big hit.
Maybe not the turnips, but the bacon.
The bacon, but I don't think red lentils. I don't think that would be that
I mean,
popular.
I'd rather eat other soup.
Yeah, I would rather eat other soup
There's
too.
so many other soups that I'd rather eat.
Yes.
But
But
apparently she's popular that people line up to see her on the Wednesdays that she
I guess
cooks.
if it's free food, it's free food. But I think that they generally keep things pretty simple at places like that.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Anyway, she finds out at this point that his last name is DeLucci. And he's
Which
like,
is
oh my gosh,
where
it's like
she
the
gets her free
bakery.
coffee and biscottis from.
Yeah. And this is where we find out the feud between father and son.
Oh goodness.
That he picked up a different career.
Your favorite part. Your favorite
baking.
part.
Yeah. Some of her, like I said, some of her imaginative cooking was a little insane. Like when she's literally shaving chocolate over the lamb chop, I'm like, that would not be good. I'm like,
maybe it's so weird it works. I'm just gonna stand by that. It's so weird it works.
Like she's making a mole sauce, which chocolate is an ingredient in mole, in particular kinds of mole, but it's like mixed in. It's not literally like shaved on top. Like
and Holly Hansen sitting at home watching the video being like, ooh,
I gotta write that down.
Take copious notes.
Yeah. She's watching. Which I feel like would be illegal. Like you can't watch somebody without their consent like that. I don't know. Not only also stealing her recipes, which she doesn't have like a patent over them, so I guess, but it's certainly, I would think something like that within a city of chefs would give you a pretty bad name pretty quick.
Yeah. No, her stealing the recipes, I liked that as a scandal.
It was fun.
But I was like, Roz, because it was Roz from Frasier. I was like, what are you doing? I can't believe you're stealing someone's recipes. Like,
yeah.
And as far as she went to like she had no qualms about stealing them and making this person look bad, making Nikki look bad.
Well, and she evidently just doesn't want employees because she comes and she stops them from cooking together. And she's like, what are you all having a date on my watch? On my dime? I'm like, didn't you give them both permission to be cooking? Like, what are you doing? And he says that you betrayed my trust and fires them both. You're both fired.
You're out of here.
Yes. And then Nikki comes back the next day and to get her stuff, and she's looking at the menu and she's like, peanut butter beef bourguignon, waffle fried chicken, lamb mole, mashed potato fries, which all sound kind of terrible, but
mashed potato fries sounds okay.
Which is rather just mashed potatoes. I feel like I wouldn't with French fries, But,
I don't know. I just want to see what it looks like.
Yeah. So,
can you really go wrong with the potato?
I don't think so. Maybe so. But yeah, and so she realizes that she's stealing her recipes, and it was a good conflict. It's spicy. Perry is a good villain in this movie.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah,
good.
and I thought it was interesting that that they were not going to reopen the restaurant until after Valentine's Day with the new menu. And she didn't even have a new chef or anything. It was like she was just like moving forward because she needed to do something for the investor. And so she was desperate and stole these recipes from watching surveillance footage, which I'm like, how would you know? What is that? I can't tell.
Right. Yeah, I tell what she was really cooking. It would be hard. But it works pretty well. And
we'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
So they decide to do this pop-up where they're going to be cooking their recipes at the old diner. And
before Perry's Holly Hansen's recipes can come out.
Yes.
The stolen recipes can come out.
Yes. And so they do say, I think they say pop-up restaurant like 100 times.
I know. They're like, hey, did you know that we're going to do a pop-up?
Yeah. But they invite all the food critics, but you hate critics. She says to Paul, you hate critics.
Yeah.
Critics aren't the enemy, folks. I promise. I'm just trying to help you from having miserable experiences. I'm trying to give you some guidance.
Nice.
But they open up. It's Cafe Cupid is the name.
I thought that was dumb. I wanted a better name, but I couldn't think of anything
Cupid.
Myself. So what are you gonna do?
It's pretty solid for a Valentine's Day pop-up. It's only gonna be those 3 days.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I don't know if I can think of a better one.
No, I can't.
So the first day of the pop-up, huge success. And they have this long hug.
Mm-hmm.
They have this long hug, which I really enjoyed. And he says, this is not a good idea. And very unprofessional. Sure, Paul. Sure. And then they have this little like dance area in the back, this Valentine's area, which was cute. And they're dancing. And he's like, it's not just cooking that I enjoy. This is nice too. Very swoon worthy. So he asks her to be his date for the Valentine's dinner, and they get like some pretty swoon-worthy dancing. And then he finds out that she invited his dad to the pop-up. And he's furious.
How dare you?
Furious.
I wasn't ready for my judgmental father.
He says, I know you're just trying to help, but the relationship between my father and I is complicated. Fair enough. But
they didn't seem to hate each other that much.
No, it blew over pretty quickly because the whole conflict is insane. So,
well, and the fact that he had never tried his son's food before is silly too.
Mm-hmm. So then Holly finds out about this pop-up, and she says that Nikki stole her recipes.
Yeah, that was some nerve, lady.
A lie only runs until it's taken over by the truth. That was a pretty good line.
Yeah, I love that.
Pretty good line. So she's so devastated because she's such a sweet person. And I think that Jen is very good at sort of capturing that. Like, she's very naive. She's very sweet. She's trusting. All of that, I think, makes her character very likable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so then she says that So then she cancels the rest of the pop-up.
Well,
She's
yeah,
so sad.
he's mad at her. The critic was there and now knows apparently that she stole recipes, which she didn't.
Yes.
And so her reputation is ruined. So what would be and everyone's canceled. So
Mhm.
they can't even
Right.
do anything.
Yeah. I mean, I think in real life you would still do it because you have all the stuff, like all the ingredients, and you wouldn't want,
Yeah.
you know.
But if no one shows up,
Yeah. And so then they have this whole conversation between Paul and his dad. He says, I'm not a baker. I never will be.
so scandalous.
It's so hilarious. And just, I felt like a failure when you decided to go to this, become a chef. That's what the dad said.
But it's
not
a tradition in the family to bake, Rachel.
Yes, I mean, this is a betrayal. A betrayal. Become a chef. and then she talks and he says, the dad says, you owe her an apology to Nikki. She was trying to do something kind. And then he says, when I've done something to make your mom unhappy, I try to think of something that will make her smile as quickly as possible.
Well, how about you apologize and right the wrong? How about that?
How about you apologize to your son for being a brat for all these years? but so now he's on the hunt to figure out a way to make Nikki's, now he's on the hunt to make Nikki's dreams come true.
Yeah.
And so he meets with this investor guy with Ben Wilkinson, and then she confronts Holly, Nikki, and says that you can take my recipes, you can take my food, but there's one thing you will never take, and that is my spirit.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. That's right. Crushing it. Mic drop, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that she has that neither one of them, Holly or Paul, has, is like a spirit that really reflects in the food.
Yeah.
Right. Like she has a style of cooking that they just don't have.
Yeah. Right.
So,
and then he comes and he apologizes, says, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the kind of person who doesn't stick around, because he said earlier in the movie that he was traumatized by the fact that his girlfriend dumped him on Valentine's Day and couldn't stick around.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Left him alone on Valentine's Day. And so he apologizes. I'm not that kind of person.
Mm.
And then he surprises her and says, look at this fun diner. I just bought it. Yay. Surprise.
For us. We're
Yes.
going to be partners. And I didn't talk to you first.
Right. And then, yeah, it's only going to change your whole life. And, but this investor is there. He's like, I heard the whole story. I know. And then they're all dancing and it's like, will you be my Valentine? And she says, well, Valentine's Day is over. And he says, consider this a reservation for next year.
Reservation. I love the chef connection.
Check score.
Well, and the good news is, besides, their relationship, the critic is going to retract the story that he's written about her that was terrible.
Right.
Because they figured out Holly is a liar.
So she can go back to her insane recipes. Everyone's going to love her. They're going to have the diner.
They're going to have pop-up every night. They're going to have pop-ups every night.
He might even participate in some illicit baking from every now and then. I don't know. But at least, I mean, he has such a good relationship with his dad now that maybe the dad can be a part of this whole enterprise.
Yeah.
Make it more successful.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
maybe he just bakes for their pop-up restaurant and then they can retire somewhat from their business.
So I'm pretty sure at Le Cordon Bleu you still have to learn baking.
Yeah, I would think so.
I would think so. Who knows? What do I know? But anyway.
Everything I know is from Top Chef, and they always do terrible at any desserts.
That's true.
When someone can do a dessert, they are like you know.
That's true. Pastry challenges are rough because in the world of fine dining, all desserts are called pastries.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's why the dessert cook is called the pastry chef.
Yeah.
Right.
I love Top Chef though. It's a fun
do
show.
love Top Chef. Oh my gosh, Buddha.
Yes.
It's the best.
Now I'm just hungry for like food.
His food always looks so good. Even when he
Yeah.
doesn't score as good, his food photographs incredibly well.
Yeah.
I was like, that looks delicious. You know how to play this game.
Now
really
I might
well.
have to watch
No
Top
wonder
Chef
he's
and
won
eat some
twice.
food. Yeah. Watch Top Chef and eat food.
Yeah. Well, that's my favorite part about this. We're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday because I could care less about football, clearly.
I love it. I was like, we have to record around the Super Bowl.
I could care less, but I do like that kind of food that you have at Super Bowl Sunday. Like dips, appetizers, snacks, stuff like that.
I got appetizer snacks for myself tonight. I still need to clean my house and prep food for the week today, and so hopefully I'll have enough time to make snacks for the Super Bowl.
Have you ever seen the movie Mermaids?
Yes. Everything is like appetizers.
In that movie, all she eats is things that you can pick up with a toothpick. Or like finger foods. It's all appetizers. I'm like, that's living.
Oh my god. I love that part of the movie.
That's a good life. That's good life choices, I think.
Maybe not the healthiest, but that's okay.
Yeah. So let us know what you think of Dash of Love. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section or on Twitter. And Lisa, where can people find you?
Yes, I am Mona Lisa 14 on Instagram and Alysa Lucas. No, it's actually Friends with Alysa on Facebook. My podcast is still on hiatus, if you remember the beginning of this podcast, talking about my 0-star end of 2023. But you can find me on social media. I'm still there.
Yeah. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure that you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. There was this problem with the iPhone update that ruined people's followers and subscribers on iTunes. And so it just messed up a lot of our numbers for iTunes. So if you're listening on there, please leave your ratings and reviews and really help us right now. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We'd appreciate that so much. And we also have our Patreon group, which is a great way to support us. And we have coming up, we have our patron watch along with Donna Benedicto, and she's the best. So it's going to be super fun and lots of other cool opportunities that you get for being in the Patreon. And then we also have the merch store. We get lots of fun designs. We have a bunch of Valentine's designs that you can wear year round. So check that out. And thanks so much. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.